And you've been listening to U.S. President Joe Biden, who is bringing in legal protection to undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens, affecting 500,000 American families, saying this is about keeping couples together, that there's been a situation with one spouse who is American, the other undocumented, and who've been here for years. And so in this case, this will apply to those who've been here for 10 years or more, saying that they have been living in the U.S. with fear and uncertainty. We can fix that, and that's what I'm going to do today. Journalist Nick Harper joins us live now from Washington. So Nick, what does Joe Biden say this new policy will accomplish?
Well, Joe Biden says that this could make a tremendous difference to a vast number of people, about 500,000 Americans who are living here illegally, but who are married to US citizens. On top of this, about 50,000 children of those US citizens. And like you said, if they've been living here for 10 years, this will give them the ability to apply for a green card that will give them permanent residency and the ability to work here in the United States, and further down the road, a path to full US citizenship. Now, importantly, this doesn't differ that much from the prior law. If you are married to a US citizen, you're entitled to a green card. But the difference here is that under the old rules, a person would have to leave the United States while they were processed, and that could potentially mean spending up to 10 years in their home country before they're allowed to enter back into the United States. So therefore, President Biden says this will stop those families having to be torn apart. He said many of those families have been living under a shadow of potentially being deported, and then when they've applied, they've had to leave the country, which has torn families apart. He called this a common sense fix, so that the old process was cumbersome, risky, and separates families. But he also argues that it helps to boost the US economy because, of course, if these people have to leave the United States, they're unable to continue their work here in the US during that period while they're being processed.
And Nick, we know Americans are going to the polls this November, so how does this move relate to Biden's campaign to win re-election? And we heard him contrast what he is suggesting today versus Donald Trump.
Well, that's right. I mean, immigration is now the top policy on voters' minds. Donald Trump's policies in the past were criticized there by Joe Biden, that controversial policy of separating families at the border, of taking children away from their parents. Biden contrasting this by saying this is instead keeping families together. But he also hopes that it'll be a vote winner for Hispanic voters in border states like Arizona and neighboring Nevada. He really hopes that this will help to improve his chances. But of course, we've heard from the former president, Donald Trump, criticizing this plan, calling it a mass amnesty plan, saying that it will undoubtedly lead to a greater surge in migrant kind, cost taxpayers millions of dollars, and therefore we're expecting all of this to be challenged in the courts over the coming weeks. Biden is hoping, though, to start this application process by the end of the summer.
Nick, thank you, journalist Nick Harper in Washington.